Hey, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to Life Mastery Decoded, where I help you decode the struggles in your life in the areas of health, wealth, relationships, and spirituality with mind mastery, emotional management, and meditation. Welcome to today's podcast. Hey, ladies, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's podcast, where I hope I am finding you patiently allowing your life to unfold. If you are not patiently allowing your life to unfold, then it is my intention to give you one nugget tonight in this episode that inspires you to make a change. We all experience impatience from time to time. Sometimes more than just time to time. Maybe it's every time. Maybe it's all the time. Well, I have come up with an acronym that I think will help for you to become more patient in the times where you really need to be. Now, a lot of times it is with other people, being patient with other people. A lot of times, even so, as mothers, maybe if there's a few fathers listening, is being patient with our kids. And you all know that we have a couple of boys still at home. We have 3 boys. One is already out of the house, and the other 2 are still living with us. And we have Cameron, who just turned 13, and we have Brandon, who is 16 and a half, and he has autism. And we always say that Brandon is, he moves so slow that he could go back in time. A lot of the times it is like molasses in the winter, and the more we try to rush him, I swear the slower he goes in getting ready for school, getting ready to go out the door, putting his shoes on, everything. And he's very skilled and he's very meticulous. So when he makes his bed, it isn't just about throwing the blankets on the bed. It is about getting every wrinkle out of the bed or out of the blankets. And it is about making sure that it is equal on all 4 sides. So it is a little bit tough when you're in kind of a hurry. And if you know anything about me and Amy, we are pretty much always in a hurry. So when we're talking about today and being patient, I'm mostly going to talk about as it relates to other people. And this S.T.O.P method, this is an acronym, S.T.O.P, is an acronym that will help you to keep in mind the perspective, keep in mind what the other person is going through as you're trying to rush them. Anyway, so here's how this goes. The S is for stop and make eye contact. Now, the one thing I love about making eye contact is the eyes, and you've heard this, the eyes are the window to the soul. When we recognize that we are frustrated, where we are maybe feeling shame or sad, do you notice that the first sense to kind of disappear towards other people is the sense of sight? Meaning you stop looking at people. You stop making eye contact. Sometimes if you're frustrated with someone, you will stop looking at them. And if you notice this, one of the things that you can do to become patient is to make eye contact with that person. There's times where we say Brandon's name no less than 40,000 times a day, trying to get his attention. And sometimes he isn't always verbally responding to us, but he does hear us. And so one of the things that we can do to create a communication as well as a connection, as well as patience and becoming present to the moment, is to, Brandon, can you look at my eyes? Can you wash your hands and get ready for dinner? And you have such a better response that way. When you are making eye contact with the other soul that you are trying to communicate with, there is a sense of love and a sense of peace there. I certainly notice that when I'm parenting and getting kids ready for dinner or getting ready for shower or getting their laundry together, whatever it is, that I'm just talking. They're behind me over there or they're over here, but I'm not making eye contact with them. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing dishes and I'm calling them to bring in their laundry, or I'm calling Cameron to set the table, or doing something like that, but I'm not making eye contact. So that is probably the most important. If you don't remember any of the other steps to the S.T.O.P method, that remember that one. Stop and make eye contact. And you'll do it in a very soft way, because one of the things that we do is to, when we make eye contact, there's a lot of love that falls there. I have to tell you a story, speaking of eye contact, that we did with the boys. One afternoon, it's very warm outside. This was probably, I bet this was a good 3 years ago now. And I bet Cameron was probably 9 or so, or 10 maybe. And we were out in the backyard. I have a big fenced-in backyard, and we were out in the backyard. And I used to be a gym teacher, and then I was a personal trainer and a boot camp instructor. So I have a ton of crazy, weird equipment. I have big hula hoops. I have little hula hoops. I have the big, giant exercise balls. I have a small parachute, not one that you would use to jump out of a plane, but like one that you would use in a gym class. And I had a bunch of this stuff out in the yard, and we were putting like an obstacle course together, and we were like playing tag and playing kickball, and we're doing all these things, and it was really fun, and we were having a lot of fun. Well, at the very, very end, we did something to kind of bring the energy down. I learned this when, not this particular activity, but I learned to bring the energy down when I was in a gym teacher, is kids get very hyped up, as you probably know. We're playing kickball or capture the flag or some big game, and kids get very energetic. Well, then when they go back to class, they tend to take that energy with them. So there were different activities that I would perform as a gym teacher to kind of bring the energy level down so they could calmly go back to class and get ready for learning. So we were getting ready to come inside, and immediately, just intuitively, I got this idea, which is a lot of what happened when I was a gym teacher or a boot camp instructor, is I would just intuitively get these ideas to kind of bring the group together. And one of the things that we did is we took turns looking at each other in the eyes while holding hands, and in our mind counting to 20. So we were doing this for 20 seconds. And so we would stand facing each other, hold hands, and look into each other's eyes, and do this for 20 seconds. And so all four of us would partner pair with all four of us. So we each went 3 rounds with each other, and it was the most beautiful thing that really deepened our connection. You would think, what's the big deal making eye contact? And I invite you to try it. Try it with anybody that you love, and just watch the relationship get deeper. And then when we came inside, we had come inside, I think we did we probably had lunch or something, and then we were doing some activities at the table, or maybe we had some reading time or whatever. And then later at dinner, when we come together and have dinner, we always ask the boys, what was the best part of your day? And both of the boys said, when we held hands for 20 seconds. I'm not kidding. Both of them said that. We had all of these things that we did throughout the day, and that was their favorite. So I encourage you to try this when you're stepping into the role of trying to be more patient. Now, if you are not talking about children, you're talking about maybe a coworker, maybe it's someone who, it's your boss, or someone who you really can't hold hands with. But I do encourage you to do this if it is a child or somebody that you love, your partner, or someone that you can do that activity with. I do encourage that because it is so profound. But if now we're talking about other people or other experiences of being impatient, maybe these other 3 tactics will help. 1, the T stands for take a deep breath. Breathing puts you in the present moment. Your body is breathing life. It is the essence of who you are. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are filling with air. You are moving through space and time with different methods and I want to say harmonies of breathing. And what I mean by that is, as you are impatient, in the midst of being impatient, your breathing changes. Your breathing will be fast and shallow. You will have no deep breath happening. So I think if you try this, You're impatient in traffic. You're impatient with your kids. You're impatient with your husband or your wife. You're impatient with your boss at work or some coworker or something that is out of your control. But if you take a deep breath and just keep breathing in and out, calming your energy down, getting your energy back into the lower chakras and just being grounded to Mother Earth and just enjoying the present moment, patience will be yours. You will just become present. Slowing our breathing down brings us out of our emotional state and back into our present state. Focus on your breathing. That is letter T. That is step 2. The number 3, it's funny because they're letters, but number 3, the O in the S.T.O.P method is observe their perspective. What do they need in this moment? So if we're trying to hurry a kid along, what do they need? When this comes to working with Brandon, and even when Cameron was very young, is to stop and look and see, as I'm hurrying him along, what is it that he needs in this moment? Does he need direction? Does he need some help with anything? Is he trying to hurry up and tie his shoes or hurry up and zip his jacket, or we're causing a bunch of chaos because we're demanding too much on the senses that he can't move at possibly the speed that we're waiting for him to move to, or that we're trying to get him to move. And so asking ourselves, what does he need in this moment? And giving ourselves a little bit of a perspective shift. And that actually leads to P, is perspective. I've told this story it's kind of a fable, but it's a great perspective. And this is what really, really gave me a perspective shift in my life that has really made me become aware, especially when I'm in traffic and I'm becoming impatient. That like the story is, you're in traffic and you're at a red light and you're the next one to go, you're first in line, and the light turns green and you start to go. And there's a small pickup truck that speeds through the intersection right in front of you. And if you would not have looked, he would have hit your car. And so you get really upset because he almost caused an accident. And maybe you give him the bird. Maybe you throw out some explicitives. Maybe you yell. Maybe you do something, right? And you continue to go because he startled you. Well, then come to find out later is that his 16-year-old daughter was at a ski resort and she hit a tree and is now unconscious in the hospital. And he is trying to get to the hospital ASAP. And yes, he ran a red light. Does that give you a little change in perspective for the man who almost hit your car? And to me, it does. And so when I'm in traffic and something similar like that happens, where maybe I'm turning a corner and I'm rounding the corner in a busy intersection and a guy pulls out of the gas station and almost hits the front of my car, but instead of honking and flipping him off and racing after him, is I understand that maybe he just got some horrible news and he's in a real big hurry. And then I just thank you that we didn't collide. Thank you that, and I just hope that he gets to wherever he's going safely. And it just gives a different perspective. So now let's go back to the O for a second. As we're observing this person, there was a time that we came back from the drive-in movie. It was very, very late. And the boys usually we play 2 movies, and it was very late. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And I would say Brandon was probably 10 or so, 9 or 10 years old. And if you know anything about kids who have autism, there's lots of different ways to help them with their schedule, like a routine. And we used a lot of picture schedules. And then as soon as he was able to read, we would write his schedule down on a piece of paper because it was just too many words flying over top of him to try to comprehend what it was we were asking. So we watched the first movie together. The second movie, both the boys fell asleep. So as that movie is over, we now kind of lean them into their seats, buckle them in, and drive home. And so as we get home, the boys are, we're waking them up and getting them to, come into the house and take their shoes off and get in their pajamas and brush their teeth and stuff like that as they're starting to wake up. And I remember Brandon being in, actually, I don't think we were like, skip the brushing the teeth. Let's have him go to the bathroom, right? Let's have him pee before he goes to bed. So I remember him being in the bathroom, and Amy was in there with him, and she was just like, okay, Brandon, then we're going to get your pajamas on, then we're going to get into bed, and then we're going to, so she's kind of giving him all of the things that we're doing, and he starts to cry. So he's sitting in the bathroom, and he starts getting upset. And she's like, oh gosh, Brandon, I know you're so tired, honey. We're getting to bed soon. And he's like, no, it's not that. I need my list. So he was asking for what he needed, which is, let's get out. He had a little tiny pocket notebook, and I need to see my list. And so she goes and gets his notebook, and she writes down basically potty, wash hands, PJs, and bed. And that was it. He calmed down. Everybody was calm. He was able to group, like get his energy all grouped up and calm, and then he could go through the list and get into bed. So when we stand back and observe, we have to understand that we're in this dance with other people, and when we become impatient, our energy actually affects them. When I'm in a big fat hurry and I'm trying to move kids along quickly, that they move into this chaotic state. And now think of it as like all these molecules that are bouncing all over the place in all these different directions, creating chaos. So there's been times where Cameron has been running through the house to fill up his water bottle or grab his backpack or get his shoes or grab a sweatshirt. And he's running all over the house like a crazed animal. And I will meet him in the room, and I'll put my hands gently on his shoulder, and I'll look at him in the eyes, take a deep breath, and I'll say, okay, what is it that you need to get before we go? And he will just go get, I need to grab my shoes and my sweatshirt. And I said, okay, I'll fill your water bottle. You go grab your shoes and your sweatshirt. And it's this beautiful dance of energy. So when I think of being impatient, I think of it being very chaotic energy, moving and crazy and holy moly and chaos and overwhelm and anxiety. And if we can stop, look each other in the eye, we can take a deep breath, we can observe each other and find out what each other needs and shift our perspective, that will create patience. Not only will it create patience, which is what you're after if you're listening to this podcast, but it will create deeper relationships at the core. So I hope you will take my advice in this podcast, create some patience, take a deep breath, and stop and breathe and make eye contact and observe and shift your perspective and deepen your relationships. I hope this works for you, and I would love to hear your perspective, and I would love to hear your success stories. And even if you think this may not even be working for you or you have any questions, please post in our Lady Rising group. If you want to come over to our private group, it's exclusive to women. It's a support group. It's a sisterhood. It's a community. And if you want that support as you're going through your life and going through the spiritual challenges and spiritual journey, I hope you'll join us. And if you just go to Facebook and you find our group, Lady Rising, and when you get those membership questions, it's just say in there, I heard it from Jen's podcast. I can't wait to hear from you. Enjoy the being patient. If you liked this episode and look forward to future episodes, please consider making a small monthly donation to help support this podcast. If you are looking for a community to join and have more access to me, then consider one of the following platforms. Chakras for Beginners is an energy-based community that is highly active and growing every day. Lady Rising is a sistership community where the focus is on spiritual support and connection. We hold monthly calls and talk about topics such as today's episode. We also have an online store where you can meet your meditation and chakra needs with products for your journey. You can visit us at www.themeditationroomtc.com. Thank you for joining me and being a valued listener.